What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're gonna go ahead and install some brakes on the S2000. As you watched my last video, I showed you guys how they look like. These are the STOPTECH trophies, nickel plated, and I believe you can get them from Rockstar Garage. I'm not really too sure, but the finish is phenomenal and I'm glad I picked them up. We're gonna go ahead and put them on the front of the car because they're for the front. They're BBKs and I'm so stoked to do this because it's gonna, one, make the car look really cool, and two, perform very well with stopping power. I mean, this car already is light and you don't really need that much brake, but who knows, maybe one day I'll go turbo, maybe one day I'll go supercharger. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead and try to do this and show you guys how it's done. It's very easy for the most part, but it might be difficult for some of you if you guys are trying to take your brakes apart and the car's a little older, because there's a lot of rust and corrosion and all that stuff. So we'll do this in the process and hopefully it'll be fun. So here's how the car looks right now. I'm just lowered on oil and coilovers. If you watched that video back there, just slightly lowered. I think the rear is almost maxed out, the front isn't so much, but besides the coilovers, the rear brakes, I spray painted the caliper gold with some Rust-Oleum, and it looks pretty good. The front's also painted, but it's starting to chip away from corrosion and water, and I'm not sure what else, but you can tell it just looks kind of funky. But this ugly rotor, it's gonna have to come off. There's gonna be some work, I will admit. Just make sure you have all the tools, the right tools. Take your time, and this should be an easy install for the most part, but it's gonna take some work. Well, alright, enough talking, so let's go ahead and get the camera on the tripod and start taking this thing apart. Alright guys, finally got the caliper and rotor on. It's looking really nice. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit of something today. Everything is really well designed and engineered. Everything is machined precisely. So like, you know, I was having a little trouble with these two bolts right here that holds the brake pad in place. You have to really get one side in, lightly thread it, and then try to push the other side in to get the bolt through. That was really tough. Make sure you use Loctite on the main bolt for the bracket and torque everything down to spec. Hopefully this helps. Everything looks pretty good right now. I can't spin the rotor because I just bled the brakes, but always good to have the bleeding tool with the compressor, or have someone with you to help you do this. But there are ways to do it by yourself. I'm pretty confident in the method I did today, which is, you know, bleeding back and forth. I did each one twice. You know, breaking it, topping off the reservoir, and just pumping it until the vacuum was created through the line and you couldn't see air through it. Made sure both sides was right. The fact that I put the stainless steel brake line in as it was dripping out, slowly let the brake fluid to go through the line to the caliper. And at that point, you know, when everything was bolted up, I topped off the reservoir. I loosened the inner bleeding hole, or bleeding hose area, or nipple, whatever you want to call it, and that lets the air out. And since it's kind of gravity fed, it slowly pushed it out. But you know, attaching that hose into the little Gatorade bottle and going in the car and just stepping on the brake a few times really force all that brake fluid through. The only thing you have to really watch out for is the brake fluid is topped off in the reservoir, but you guys already know that. Just can't have it dropped. I wouldn't even let it drop less than max. Just make sure you keep topping it off every pump. And also the hose here, make sure that is really snugged on that. Each car has a different size. I just happen to have the right hose for that. I think I picked it up at Home Depot or something like that, or I got it from some kit. But you know, you always have stuff laying around when you're working on cars, especially stuff like that. So I kept pumping it, kept bleeding it until I didn't see any air, and you know, I was confident this is gonna work. The other side, I did do it with my brother the other day. I wanted to make sure I get that right before I did this video for this side. And yeah, so I'm gonna put everything back together. Hopefully, if the weather permits, I'm gonna go for a test drive. We do have to do a bedding process, which is a combination of going to 40 miles an hour, hitting the brakes real hard, going 60 miles an hour, hit the brakes real hard, going 80. So there's a process to do it, to make sure the brake pad and the rotor meets properly. You know, it's just the way that they want it done, and you should do it that way. But we can get into that later. I'm just really excited to get these brakes on. They look really good on the car. Pairing it with the oil and coilovers and the fresh white paint, I think it looks really nice. I mean, it's not as lavish and popping as the endless brakes that I used to have, but these are a lot bigger, and these rotors actually look a lot huger too. So it could just be a deception with my eyes, but I'm really excited to have BBK again. There's no feeling like it. All my cars I've owned had BBK, so going back to stock from Endless, I really was kind of dying to have it again. So, you know, save a little money, put it aside, and don't skimp out. I mean, there are better kits out there, or rather there's more affordable kits out there, but I waited for this deal to pop up, and I'm just so grateful that the seller was parting out his car, never used the brakes, and sold to me for a few $100s less than what they cost retail. So it's always a plus to save when you can buy car parts, and it's always a plus to sit back and just enjoy the view. So alright guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. just a very simple walkthrough of how to install these brakes. Everything should fit properly, but you also want to overlook everything, make sure the rotor's not touching the outer tie rods, lower ball joints. These do fit pretty close, but for the most part, when you guys are doing things like this, everything you put on, just overlook it. Last thing you want to do is start driving the car and the whole thing just falls apart. Something rubs and destroys your brand new rotor, you know, things like that. So it's always something to worry about when working on cars, especially mechanics, because you don't want to mess that up. Body parts, who cares? You know, that can be fixed and replaced through paint and body work. But for the most part, take your time and really enjoy it, you know. Like, I've been in here for probably a few hours now making this video, and you know, it came out pretty nice. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.